Hello, and welcome to Quackalope, and today we are going to be covering Dice Theme Park by Alley Cat Games. This is coming on Kickstarter. I think right now it's live.
I mean, very close to now.
Or yes, soon enough.
Presumably this is arriving one day on your doorstep.
And this is going to be a dice allocation game in the same vein as Dice Hospital, technically kind of like its spiritual successor in a lot of ways.
Slightly more fun, though.
Yeah, but it is a theme park theme.
Well, that's what I was going for.
It's a theme park theme.
Yeah, personally, no judgment on Dice Hospital, but, healing the sick versus riding cool rides and throwing up in trash cans. I mean, I'm going to go for this every day of the week.
And in addition to that, this also seems to be slightly more complicated than Dice Hospital, but that's what we've heard. I actually haven't had the opportunity to play Dice Hospital.
I think the escalation or the chaining potential in it, where you're going to be actually assigning your dice and having them sort of waterfall down your different track, which we'll get into in just a moment, could lead to a bit more depth and complexity, but it genuinely has a bit more of a lighthearted skin on it. And so I'll be curious to see the expansions. I'll be curious to see, when we're not working with a prototype, everything that's going to be in store and where they kind of put the entry level and where this is going to scale to with different modules and different ways and variations to play.
Which Dice Hospital also had a bunch of things that you could add into that that box. It was great.
So let's go ahead and get a brief overview of what exactly this game is, and then talk about our first impressions of it, talk about kind of our thoughts around why people will and won't like this game, what the puzzle is, and what this is doing so well.
So in Dice Theme Park, you're building your very own theme park. You'll be using hexagonal tiles to add into a starting board and slowly but surely build out an engine of economy, which you'll use dice that are going to be drafted at the beginning of a round to then activate these tiles and start capitalizing on different amenities and things you've collected.
So what Jan's trying to say is, in this game, you're going to be establishing your own tycoon-style theme park, where you'll invite guests into your entrance, show them the wonders of your exhibit, the rides, the food, the merchandise they can purchase, and try your best to use as much of their excitement and energy to your own
advantage.
Machinations.
Yes.
You're going to be sending them, ushering them through the gates, and they will be riding various rides, purchasing different supplies, earning you money and victory points and endgame scoring. You'll be thrusting different people in wacky costumes in front of them that encourage them to, whoa, you can absolutely ride that ride, or why should we pay attention to the height limit on this one? This is the perfect ride for you.
And the way that all works is a combination between what I would call a little bit of tableau building to a certain degree and dice allocation and a slight movement puzzle. Basically what you're doing is that you'll be drafting dice from a shared board, and you'll be taking these dice and bringing them into your park. Then through various actions and abilities, you'll have to displace those dice, move them slowly but surely into the rides that you need in order to then activate those rides and gain some profit.
Now, the puzzle's interesting because dice automatically makes you think that you're just going to be shaking up and randomizing all the numbers that you'll get. That's actually not how this works. The way that you do the dice drafting, the colors themselves will be randomized, but these cards here will always script a more potentially fair or at least strategic nature to the numbers that are going to be at play. Along with that, one thing that you didn't quite hit on before we actually
action selection
is going to be a hand of cards that you have. This is going to be a super unique mechanic. So I'm going to sprint through what you're doing real quick.
Let's do it.
You're going to select 2 cards from your hand. You're going to place those down. Those will determine the starting order, also the resources and the money that you're going to be getting. You're then going to shift over here onto the board. You're going to buy a tile that you could potentially put into your amusement park. You're going to
collect income.
You're going to collect. I already said that. You should listen a little bit closer. I'm talking fast, just like Alex from Boardgame Go does. You're going to buy a tile right here that you can put into your theme park that'll potentially trigger other dice that you'll be able to maneuver things to, and a waterfall effect that's going to trigger multiple effects. You're going to look over here at your different characters or
that's a module,
suits.
not necessarily in the base game.
I hear what you're saying, but you're going to look over here at your characters in giant big suits. You're going to potentially purchase them that will give you modifiers or different, what are these guys called?
Mascot meeples.
Mascot meeples that can be placed down in different areas of your board to adjust the dice that you have, and then finally you'll go up here to this dice drafting location where you purchase the dice. They'll enter into your theme park, and then
incorrect. Oh, Jesse, I'm so disappointed, buddy. That is the first thing you do in the acquisitions phase.
Escalation. Yeah, but all 3 of these are in the same category.
Sure, yes, you're right about that. First we collect dice, then we get these, and then we get our mascots. You're close.
Great. So I was looking at this tile so that I could strategically choose what dice I wanted.
It's the other way around.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. These cards are going to be super interesting. They're going to start this allocation phase, and here's the 2 reasons why these cards matter so much. First off, there's going to be a range of abilities that have different values attached to them. In a similar method to other games, I mean, sort of like Mage Knight, where you choose the card that is going to initiate your starting value and also initiate your benefit. However, the interesting thing with these cards
is that they're not yours forever. Every time that you play those 2 cards, at the end in the cleanup phase, you're going to pass those 2 cards to your opponent. And now you're going to have even more options. You might even be able to double up on some cards.
There's a chance I could be playing the same card, the same ability, really taking advantage of one core strategy. And as you get more players around the table, this whole mixture and the whole available cards and everything that you can utilize starts shifting and maneuvering. You're benefiting yourself, you're also benefiting other players, and they're doing the exact same thing. It definitely doesn't feel mean, it definitely doesn't feel take that, but it adds such an interesting puzzle to your hand management and to your overall strategy, because you won't have access to those cards for...
Exactly. Well, for it could potentially be in multiple turns or just the next turn. You never know.
Multiple rounds. Now, I mentioned the cascading waterfall effect, and I want to get to that next because I think it's probably one of the coolest parts about this game.
Sure.
Is there anything I'm overlooking before we get to our own personal sort of solo puzzle?
Well, one of the things that this game does really well is that it gives you control as to how your park evolves and grows. Every theme park, every ride is going to be able to be customized with what are called maintenance tiles or upgrade tiles. These upgrades are going to let you do things like a ride is going to be more profitable. A ride is going to be able to be activated more because it's a generator.
This would be fair placement.
No, that is not this game.
Oh,
I think
you said I could do it how I want to do it.
Minera?
I'll play my game, Jam.
Either way, and finally, you're going to be able to make tiles even more prestigious by adding some fireworks to them. In addition to that, you might think that in this game you can move dice anywhere you want, but that's not necessarily the case. You're going to need tokens in order to make that happen.
Each of these tokens
are critical.
Are going to cost you a little bit of money, but you could get a whole handful and pile of them, and as your park starts to escalate, this is really just how quickly you can get different members that are visiting to the depths of your park. So before they leave, they have to go through multiple tiles. So I think now are we up to the thing that I think is the coolest about this game?
Yes, I'll allow it.
This game is going to give you, like I've said a few times now, a sense of a waterfall or a sense of a sequencing of actions. Your dice are going to do their very best to maneuver up into the deepest parts of your park, and then you'll watch as you trigger rides one after another as characters that are waiting in line go and then begin proliferating out. Dice will tick down, one dice will move out of a region, and then you'll be able to re-trigger or reactivate all of those events. You might send mascots there to manipulate the numbers. You might have different locations that require odds, evens, certain number ranges, and certain colors. And the puzzle of this game, the reason why this might become more complicated in some versions or some variations of gameplay is because of the escalation of this puzzle. This becomes an infinite amount of pathways, and in the rulebook even specifies that you can trigger them in any direction, in any order, in any sequence, and that can first off lead to a very rewarding, again, waterfall effect where everything happens and you feel super cool. And or it could also lead to a lot of, oh my gosh,
the word is AP.
Hold on, you got 18 points, but I'm still mathing.
So here's the other interesting thing about this game.
And that one's triggering there, and...
all of that thinking that Jesse is doing can be done simultaneously. This game has different phases where the game recommends that we go in order, other phases where we can just do everything at the same time. And to give you an example, very simple, there's some comboing that you can do even at the very first kind of starting tile that you get.
The 4 tiles you begin with.
Every time that you activate your park entrance, you're going to be able to, as Jesse said, move a dice. So let's say that we start with a yellow 6. I would activate that tile, I would go ahead and put that marker right there, and I would have to tick down that dice and then move it over to my mini train.
Or, I mean, it could move over to your spooky forest, or it could move up to your magic fountain.
However, because the mini train requires a yellow dice, I might want to move it there. And now that I have a yellow dice and mini train, I can go ahead and activate my mini train.
It's dropping down to 4.
Bringing that back down, and now I can choose again. I can go to the magic fountain, or I could go back to my park entrance that has any dice in terms of what color it could be.
Now, strategically, some of the things you're looking at here is going to be how low your dice are ticking.
Yep.
One of the reasons why you wouldn't have activated your green or your blue to move into that park entrance is because if a dice hits 0, it's removed from the board. If it hits 1, you might be able to rescue it, but you have to get some more energy in it. Free hot dogs! Free hot dogs!
Or sending a mascot to make them a tad little happier and distract them from
because at the end of a day or the end of a cycle, if any of your dice are remaining at 1, they will also be removed from the board.
And at the end of the day, these upgrades are quintessential because now I can finally go ahead and activate that right again. So this guy has been getting his money's worth in the park so far.
Well, I mean, he rode the Ferris wheel at the park entrance 7 times, but look.
Hey, you don't criticize what he wants to do.
I'm not going to
They can do whatever they want.
I'm not going to
It's their park experience.
It's their park experience. Let's talk about the things we like, the things we think other people may or may not like when it comes to this game. Because ultimately, the decision is, do you back it on Kickstarter?
So I think this is I'm not sure if these are the right terms I'm using, but this feels to me like a logistics puzzle.
This feels to me like a mathematical equation.
At the end of the day, it is. You're trying to
when
make
you get to the
most
evening, that's what it comes out to be.
When you get to the evening?
Yeah.
Okay, is that the official term? Okay. So basically, it's really complex. It starts very simple. The more tiles you're adding in there, the more stress you're putting on your mind to try and figure out what the most efficient way of using the dice is going to be. One thing that I started noticing early on is that you can start kind of really amassing a particular color scheme and really focusing on those particular dice colors in order to just have chaining effects all over the place. But you never know what that draft is going to be. And the draft is going to be one of those elements that keeps things fresh and interesting because it could be anything. All the dice could be separated colors, or you can never get what you get.
It could be any color, but the other interesting thing is there is a degree of gray dice slots on your board that allow you to at least manipulate things that don't have a color sequence. Or your mascots, like we said earlier, could change those colors. The trick is in that puzzle. And I think this is going to be the heart of what makes this game either wrong for you or right for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be the fact that after all this strategy's done, after the dice allocation and the cool card placement and deciding where to spend your money and your resource and upgrading your park, there's going to be a moment. There's going to be a 5 to 8 minute lull.
Sure.
4 rounds throughout the course of the game where all you're doing is sitting here at your own puzzle, not bargaining or paying attention to what anyone else is doing, and sequencing down, placing cubes, maneuvering dice, and this puzzle's really good. For a player that enjoys that puzzle, for a group that can trust everyone around the table, and more specifically for someone that understands sort of spatial reasoning and numbers at the same time, that sequence of colors, that pattern laying, and that water, that water cascade effect feels really rewarding. And it feels good to finish and look around the table and go, I just got 18 points.
I got 21.
That's a real thing that happened. It feels rewarding. However,
if you're trying to look for some player interaction, there is going to it's going to be here, and that's going to be through the drafting. As you start scaling, players are going to have more options with dice, all the way up to 5 different sets of dice that you can collect. You're going to have more tiles you're going to be able to get to, and you're going to have more mascot cards that you're going to be able to choose.
But that's still not the crux of the game. Coming back to this,
it's going to be that puzzle. It's going to be how you maximize it.
And if you don't enjoy that, what feels like a bit of a solo escapade into your own park enterprise, and trusting other players who claim to have gotten 21, this one may not fit as effectively around your game table. I think this is the crux.
It is 100%.
The best part of the game. It also might be the part that some groups don't enjoy as much.
And I'm super curious, as you said, with those expansions, how they start kind of changing things out. I already saw in these cards that they're adding even new abilities in terms of upgrades that you can add. Now you have statues. There's going to be some type of cable
and you have
card.
different types of locations, from picnic benches to drink locations, and all of that will start sequencing. And
which is a little bit of set collection.
I guarantee this prototype will escalate from where it is now to something heavier. And if I was going to request anything, let's say we had the power to, cast aspersions and let hundreds of people see.
Looking for a little Quackalope mascot in there?
No. I would like to see this solo puzzle with maybe a side module or another little board, something that you're tracking, impact or influence the other players more than just this initial card play. But outside of that, I think this one's really cool. I think anyone who enjoyed Dice Hospital is going to see this as a worthy predecessor. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that never took the time to experience Dice Hospital, yourself included.
Yeah, that should definitely try and check this out.
That are going to absolutely love this. So, anything we missed, Jan?
There's so much variability in this title. If you're into economic games with a little bit of tiling, a little bit of drafting, and just a really lighthearted theme, check out Dice Theme Park. And that's going to be it.
I think it's worth it. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Catch as many chips in your mouth as possible.
We'll see you guys next time.